devastating hurricanes, unprecedented heat waves, catastrophic flooding. An upward trend of extreme weather and climate events is leading to significant losses across the globe. In the fight against climate change, no one is a bystander. China has pledged to peak the nation's CO2 emissions before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. To shed light on the country's journey towards sustainable development, our reporters traveled across China to capture the stories of individuals, enterprises and public institutions who are striving to make a difference. As COP29, the UN Climate Change Conference, convenes from November the 11th to the 22nd in Azerbaijan, CGTN Radio brings you a special series, Greener China, A Journey to 2060. Join us on your favorite podcast platforms to witness Chinese people's awareness, actions and the challenges we face as the country journeys into a greener future.
The pressure on petrochemical enterprises in pursuing carbon neutrality is indeed immense.
When I first met Sun Shengyong, an engineer at the Daqing oil field in Heilongjiang province, he introduced me to CCUS, carbon capture, utilization and storage, a technology well established at Daqing. Using carbon dioxide to drive oil extraction, they consume hundreds of thousands of tons of CO2 annually. Initially, I thought this was impressive, until I learned the other side of the story. Hello and welcome to Greener China, A Journey to 2060. I'm Yang Guan. In our last episode, we explored the steps industrial bases in northeast China have taken to curb carbon emissions. But with each visit and the conversation there, I became more aware of the immense pressure Sun Shengyong had mentioned. 300,000 versus 20 million. The stark contrast in CO2 figures at Daqing oil field highlights the challenge.
现在呢，我们正在谋划从大化是吧，还有我们中国电能的热电力公司的这个高浓度。
Our ultimate goal at this stage is to inject 3 million tons of carbon dioxide. This year, our target is 300,000 tons. We are on track to achieve that.
现在看呢，都是按正常实施。
That's Director Pang Zhiqin of Daqing Oilfield's New Energy Business Department. However, I learned that the city of Daqing emits over 20 million tons of CO2 annually. The huge gap between emissions and capture underscores the difficulty of the battle against the CO2, a major greenhouse gas contributing to climate change. Old industrial bases in northeastern China, like Daqing Oilfield, face many hurdles on their path to carbon reduction. The most pressing challenge is the cost. At Daqing Oilfield, CCUS allows for the capture of CO2 from natural gas, where concentrations range from 30 to 60%. The CO2 comes from tail gas produced during natural gas extraction. I wondered why large-scale CO2 capture isn't conducted at petrochemical plants like refineries, which emit CO2 with concentrations as high as 95%. Wouldn't capturing this purer CO2 be beneficial both for production and emissions reduction? Director Pang explained.
首先，碳源这块的从补给、运输到注入整个环节这块成本还是偏高的。
Firstly, the cost of CO2 supply, transportation and injection remains high. Secondly, we only use CO2 injection for lower quality oil reservoirs with reduced output. Extracting 1 ton of oil requires 3 tons of CO2.
基本能换来1吨油，基本上3比1的概念，但也需要日常的精细化管理，所以难度呢也是非常大的。同时呢，我们国家在碳
Storing and injecting CO2 also needs regular maintenance and management, which produces additional costs. Moreover, the country has not fully implemented a carbon tax or trading system, so the potential carbon reduction benefits are not yet financially reflected.
CCUS 这个业务向前发展。
In short, it's simply too costly. For example, the Yushulin oil plant, one of the most successful in using CO2 for oil extraction, still faces cost challenges. Purifying CO2 demands financial investment.
大象鱼式炼油田呢，它是属于一个特定。
Engineer Li Ronghua elaborated.
怎么降低成本？气源的价格，我们现在采用的这种形式是徐氏有气田来到二氧化碳嘛？
The CO2 we use comes from Xushenjiu natural gas field, where CO2 is separated as part of industrial production. It's free, but as CO2 injection scales up, we may need CO2 from other sources, which would require purification process, adding to the cost.
就是提纯到一定的纯度，我们才能注入。
Cost control is also a challenge at Ansteel, the largest steel plant in northeast China. Hydrogen-based direct reduced iron making, in combination with the electric arc furnaces, currently represents the most viable strategy for reducing emissions and putting the sector on a path to net zero. However, this could cost Ansteel billions. Zhang Feng from Ansteel's Research Institute noted it's not a pragmatic approach.
我们有这个环保的理念，有绿钢的这个理念，然后我们想要做到很好，一是我们面临一个成本的控制，然后我们。
While we recognize the importance of low-carbon steel production, cost control remains a key issue. Achieving zero-carbon steel production with hydrogen would require replacing our entire production line.
像那个我说的那个路径3也需要新的设备。
The technological barriers to decarbonization are also significant. Hydrogen-based metallurgy, an alternative to coal, is being researched globally. The prospect of near-zero carbon emissions is appealing, but transitioning from traditional fossil fuels is no easy task. Tian Yuan, director of Ansteel's strategic department, said it's not an overnight effort.
自从有钢铁引进以来。
Metallurgy has relied on carbon for iron reduction since its inception thousands of years ago. Changing this long-standing process is extremely challenging indeed.
Sun Shengyong from Daqing Oilfield added that while carbon sources like coal and natural gas are readily available, producing carbon-free hydrogen comes with stringent requirements.
氢这个现在人给它冠以了几个名儿，灰氢、蓝氢、绿氢啊。灰氢是啥概念？就刚才。
There are several types of industrial hydrogen. The first is gray hydrogen, produced from natural gas which still emits CO2. Blue hydrogen captures CO2 during production. Green hydrogen, the only carbon-free type, is produced via water electrolysis. Plus, all the power used for electrolysis must come from renewable energy.
China's first hydrogen-based direct reduced iron making plant with a 1 million ton capacity was established last year in Zhanjiang, South China's Guangdong province. However, it hasn't yet implemented green hydrogen usage. In the case of green hydrogen, the construction of a gigawatt-scale electrolysis plant is required. This presents significant challenges for steel producers like Ansteel. Hu Daichao of Ansteel's Research Institute said the current electrolysis method doesn't produce hydrogen that is cost-effective enough for large-scale steel production.
可能现在唯一限制的就是制氢的成本太高了。如果之后氢气的成本下来以后
The cost of green hydrogen production is just too high. Lowering these costs could make hydrogen-based metallurgy promising.
氢冶金就有更好的未来了。
With large-scale green hydrogen-based steelmaking not being popularized anytime soon, carbon is still the first choice. Coal still provides around 75% of the iron and steel industry's total energy demand at the current stage globally. As long as carbon-based fuels like coal and natural gas are used, industrial production will emit carbon from the start. Shifting to green energy while maintaining profitability requires further technological breakthroughs, not only for Northeast China, but globally. Despite the adoption of carbon capture technologies, such as at Daqing, Sun Shengyong emphasized that more innovation is needed for reducing CO2 emissions.
真正要实现碳中和的话 ，CCUS 是一个兜底儿的一个技术。 实际上来说的话，它应该从第一大方面就是咱们现在传统的这些石化企业。
The focus should be on reducing emissions by optimizing processes and advancing technology in traditional industries. CCUS captures carbon only after it's been emitted, so it's the last resort.
实际上这个是最后的一个技术手段了。
Dr. Zhou Jingfeng from the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation gives a second opinion about the benefits of CCUS.
你如果这样去做这件事情的话，来做碳捕集利用 CCUS 的话，它逻辑上是不通的，因为
Carbon capture and storage still consumes energy. We should consider natural solutions as a better approach.
你应该有更多的方法，基于自然的解决方案。
Dr. Zhou also suggests an alternative view on decarbonization for industry. He says that beyond emission reduction, scaling down production with modern technologies could also be effective.
传统的工业呢，它是流水线的，那么现在的技术呢，完全可以个性化定制。
Traditional industries operate on mass production, which often leads to mismatches in supply and demand and a crisis of overproduction. With technologies like big data and AI, we can shift to customized production models.
人工智能很多新是我们应该迅速的接受。
Technological progress relies on skilled talent. But northeast China faces a shrinking talent pool due to population decline and aging. In 2022, the population of the three northeastern provinces dropped nearly 5% from the previous year, with a decade-long decline of over 11 million people from 2010. Once the backbone of country's industrial sector, northeast China has experienced economic stagnation as development shifts to more prosperous delta regions of the country. This shift has led to an exodus of talent, with some even calling the Northeast the Rust Belt of China. Employees at Ansteel and Daqing Oilfield expressed their concerns about talent retention.
我们东北主要其实还是一些偏重于工业化。
The region focuses heavily on traditional industries and has limited opportunities and resources compared to other cities. High-tech companies like Huawei are based elsewhere, making skilled workers prefer those regions.
Northeast China used to play the leading role, but it has fallen behind.
Older people tend to stay, but young people live for better opportunities.
Many of my peers have moved away. Young people want to explore new possibilities outside of their hometowns.
Despite the challenges, traditional industrial enterprises in northeast China, such as Ansteel and Daqing Oilfield, remain committed to reducing carbon emissions. Their transformation has shed light on the complexities of carbon dioxide management and the determination to build a greener China.
We have gradually deepened our understanding of this gas. Initially, all we knew was that it was simply carbon dioxide.
目前很多人还认知到双碳战略的执行，它确实是与我们当期的经济利益。
Many still don't fully grasp the importance of reaching carbon peak and neutrality. While it may conflict with immediate economic interest, carbon neutrality is the future and represents the long-term trend for enterprises and the economic development. We can't measure it by short-term gains alone.
不仅仅能用当期的眼前的利益去衡量它。
With that, we wrap up the first part of our special series, Greener China, A Journey to 2060. From the wildlife kingdom of southwest China's Yunnan province to the ecologically restored landscape in Ningxia in the northwest and the industrial innovations in the northeastern part of the country, we took a glimpse of how China is paving the way toward a greener future. The journey to carbon neutrality extends far beyond these efforts. Advances in renewable energy, electric vehicles, the carbon trading market and more are top on our net zero carbon agenda. In the coming months, we will continue to explore these mega projects across the country and bring you more stories on China's green path. I'm Yang Guang, thank you for being with us. Goodbye.